Today, customers expect things to just work. There's no doubt the bar for quality has never been higher, but many organizations find it challenging to meet those expectations because they're stuck with outmoded quality management systems. It doesn't have to be that way. Next generation quality management system technology that is cloud-based and analytics-driven is available now. I am Stan Gibson, and I'll be your host and moderator for this live interactive webcast. Joining me to explore how to achieve new levels of quality while limiting risk and cost are two experts. David Isaacson, Senior Director for Product Marketing at ETQ. Welcome, David. It's great to have you here for this webcast.
Thank you, Stan. I'm glad to be here, and I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today.
Also joining us, Hira Sharma, Chief Architect for ETQ. Welcome, Hira, and thanks for being with us today.
Thanks, Stan. Excited to be here.
Before we dive into our discussion with David and Hira, just a quick word about this webcast. Now, we are live and interactive, and that means we'd like to hear from you and our audience. Should a question occur to you at any time, please type it into the Q&A box on your screen and then press submit. We'll do our best to answer your question during the Q&A segment of the webcast, and if we can't, you will receive an email reply within just a few days. Also, this webcast features two audience poll questions. When the question appears on your screen, please select the answer that seems right to you, and then press the submit button. We'll tally and discuss the results instantly. David and Hira, I know you've got some great information to share, so I'll hand things over to you now. David, you're up first.
All right, Stan, thank you so much. And again, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. It's a pleasure to be here with you. We will be looking at how a QMS, quality management system, and its technologies really is changing how organizations manage their quality in-house and with the rest of the world. And part of today's discussion, I'll give you a quick overview of who ETQ is and some of the market drivers we're seeing. In addition, then we'll have Hira go into more detail on a lot of the technologies that are being used, because we understand that IT departments and the individuals who work in those, the professionals in those groups, are looking at the technologies that are in use every day within their organization and outside, and making sure that you understand it and that you can support it, and that the vendors and the partners that you work with are taking advantage of the right technologies at the right time. And just as an aside, what was announced over the weekend with, like, for example, the Log4j, the Apache Log4j vulnerability, really drives home the need to keep current with technology and make sure we're taking care of our own environments to the best of our ability. So let me start by giving you a quick introduction to ETQ. We are an organization that is focused on quality. We've been doing this for nearly 30 years now, making sure our customers understand that they have the right tools at the right time to make sure that they are producing the best types of quality products for their customers. We have a broad application portfolio that really allows our customers to take advantage of what they need in the marketplace. It's cloud native, meaning it's all in the cloud now, and Hira will get into more details on that. It's also a very agile platform where you can configure the system to make sure that it is meeting your needs. You don't have to fit into the platform or the application's way of doing things. It's really what makes your organization special and how your organization can take advantage of the technologies that we have provided. We've won numerous awards. We are constantly rated as one of the best QMSs in the marketplace. We are a global organization that we support customers around the world. Therefore, we can support you and your needs, whether you are in North America, in Europe, in Asia. It doesn't really matter. We have customers who take advantage of our solutions worldwide. We have a very diverse customer base, and I'll show you a few of the customers that we have in a moment, but it spans a very broad set of different vertical markets, whether it's manufacturing, life sciences, pharmaceuticals, food and beverage, electronics, and so forth. One of the real benefits of having a broad customer base that also spans from very large to very small organizations is that we share experiences, we share best practices, so everybody can take advantage of what others have learned along the way. You're not in this alone. You have a partner that's with you every step of the way. As a partner, we believe that competitive advantage, your competitive advantage, really grows when you have the ability to differentiate yourself in your markets. And so your quality management system needs to be able to have that agility, to have that configurability, to address what you need when you need it, to meet you where you are. And from a quality perspective, ETQ is built for that purpose. As I said, we've been working in the quality world for many years. And so it really helps to have a partner who has addressed a number of problems across a number of industries. And when I talk about those different industries and I think about who we've helped along the way, on this screen, you can just see a subset of the customers that take advantage of ETQ Reliance, which is our quality management system, every day to make sure that they are delivering the right quality to their customers. So it's not about us, it's not even about you, but it's about your customer and making sure that they have the right quality at the right time, whether it's in manufacturing, as I said, or food and beverage and so forth. So I think that one of the key benefits is having not just a broad set of customers, but being able to share best practices, making sure that if somebody else has solved a problem or that there's been a learning, that you can take advantage of that. And so that's one of the benefits here. And in fact, what we find is our customers really talk to each other and they share best practices with each other. They don't have to even get ETQ in the middle of it, that we've built this community that really relies on each other going forward. Now, when I look at a quality management system, I want to make sure that everybody understands what we're talking about here, because there are lots of different definitions and there's lots of different piece parts that go along with it. But when I look at a quality management system, it's a fairly broad set of capabilities that allow an organization to think about where quality exists throughout the whole product life cycle. And it goes beyond just producing a quality product, but making sure you have the right policies and procedures to support that. So, for example, a key component of any quality management system will be document control and document management. That way, you can make sure that everybody's using the right version of an approved document at every step of the process. And then there's training management, which goes along with that, which means that not only are you using the right information, but that the whole organization, or at least those who are responsible for whatever part of the process we're talking about, are trained appropriately. We have audit management, because audits are such a big part of our world today, whether it's internal audits, customers auditing you, if you're in regulated industries such as life sciences, the FDA comes along and audits every once in a while. So it's making sure you're prepared when those audits arise. And as you can see on this chart, there are a lot of other capabilities that go along with this, whether we're dealing with risk, or we're dealing with new product introduction, we're dealing with suppliers, and that's another key area of quality that your organization needs to deal with, because most organizations today integrate components from other suppliers. Well, you need to make sure those are at the right quality level for the product that you're producing for your customers. And it just keeps going, and it's a very broad set of capabilities, all underpinned by a set of basic capabilities and technologies. And Hira's going to get into this in a couple of minutes, making sure that you have the right technologies that support that the functions that you're dealing with and the products that you're producing in the market. And then this is all hosted in the cloud, and it's not enough just to be able to do all these functions and collect all this data and have it sitting there. You need to be able to report on it and look at it in a very structured manner. So it's all underpinned by advanced analytics that allow you to spot trends and allow you to say, okay, we've had some corrective actions that have occurred or nonconformances. What's going on? How do we address those? What's the root cause analysis, and how do we report on it? How do we track it going into the future? So a quality management system is a broad set of capabilities that allow you to manage quality at every step of the product lifecycle. And as we look at the cloud and the trends and where things are going, this is really the direction that not just quality management, but many, many applications are driving into the cloud. And the cloud is seeing incredible growth over the last several years. And I'm sure your organizations have applications that now reside in the cloud, or you're looking at that. And there's so many values that you get out of being in there. And the power that belongs there is things like it's managed. You have a partner who manages the system on a day-to-day basis. It's secure. So we're looking at those security risks every day. And when something like the vulnerability that came up this past weekend arises, they're there to take care of that for you. You don't have to worry about whether or not your vendors and your partners are dealing with it. You have to, for example, we took care of that for our customers over the weekend. It's our systems are up to date, and that's what you want from a partner. Also using the latest technology, keeping it up to date, because technology rapidly changes, and you want someone who can help you identify what the right technologies are today. Another area that we see is scalability, where we want to make sure that as you grow, as your needs change, that's occurring, that the platform you've chosen can help you with that. And finally, keeping an eye on it, making sure that as you use the system, someone's making sure that you're not going to run out of resources, that more users coming in, can be handled with the same performance level that your first user is. And with that, Stan, I think we're ready for our first poll question.
Well, David, indeed we are. Thanks very much. That poll question should be appearing on everyone's screen right now. And the question is, are you using cloud in the SaaS, PaaS, or IaaS capacity? That's software as a service, platform as a service, or infrastructure as a service. Any of those three capacities, please select yes and then hit the submit button. If not, please select no. David and Hira, while we're waiting for our audience members to make their selections and vote, I think the cloud is very widespread. I'd be surprised. I think most everyone is going to select yes for this. What are your thoughts?
Yeah,
I would
absolutely.
agree. Yeah.
Go ahead, David.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I would say we're going to see that most organizations are at least exploring the cloud. They have taken steps into that, and probably they're in a hybrid environment right now. And Hira, anything you'd like to throw in there?
I agree. I think in the last few years, there has been an increased adoption of cloud, especially with the recent events that we have had with the pandemic. I think everybody has realized that being in cloud is extremely important, and away from those on-prem data centers. So definitely, I see that there's going to be a larger participation.
All right. Well, let's take a look at our results. And it seems that certainly yes is in the majority here, as we suspected, but no. About a third of the audience says no, they're not using the cloud in any of those three capacities. Is that at all surprising to you, Hira?
I think definitely. I think, but I think I'm hoping that with this webinar, we're going to shift this mindset and hopefully get you onto those yeses.
All right, David, any thoughts before we move on?
I'm not as surprised as Hira is. I think that there are a lot of organizations who are investigating it, but haven't taken that step yet. And I think to Hira's point that what we'll talk about today may give you a little bit more comfort level in terms of moving towards the cloud as a platform that can support your business needs.
All right. Well, I'll hand things back to you, David. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Stan. So as we continue to look at the market drivers, so we just looked at the cloud, but there are other market drivers that we see going on today that also come into play. And part of that is, first of all, repurposing IT resources. We know that most IT organizations that we deal with today are running very lean, right? So having a partner or a vendor help manage some of that infrastructure really becomes important, and that you have someone you can rely on to help out with that. And that typically, you know, for a vendor like ETQ, we're looking at that on a 7/24 basis. It's not, you know, just during business hours, it's all the time. And then there's another impact, and that's looking at the cost of those systems. You know, doing a refresh internally for hardware and environments every 3 to 5 years can get fairly costly. And having a vendor in a SaaS environment who is keeping those environments up to date on a regular basis really becomes a real cost benefit to an organization. And also being able to respond to the quality team needs. When we look at IT departments, you know, when you think about what are the most business critical systems, while quality is certainly an important system for the organization, it may not rise to the same level as like an ERP system, which is running the manufacturing line on a day-to-day basis, or your finance systems, or even the CRM systems and sales systems. So a lot of times, you know, quality systems can take advantage of having a partner who looks at those on a day-to-day basis and has that responsiveness, just because, again, as I said, a lot of these IT organizations are running fairly lean. Latest version of the software, that's one of the things that in the cloud and having a partner who maintains those systems, we keep all of the systems up to date and on the latest versions of software, whether that's the application that we've delivered, but also the underlying platform software components as well. Security, we've talked about that already a little bit, and Hira is going to get into that more, but we want to make sure that we're always keeping current with the latest security capabilities that are in the marketplace. And that also enables access from anywhere at any time. Because we're in the cloud, you don't have to be at your desk accessing the system. You can be anywhere. You can be at home, and that's what the pandemic has taught us, is that we've learned to work at home very effectively now for a lot of organizations, or whether we're traveling, access anywhere at any time. And then really address focus needs, because we want to make sure that, you know, for this quality management system, that we are monitoring the usage, making sure that, you know, your teams are taking advantage of the capabilities that are there, and that there's scalability and redundancy. So if anything does come up that's an issue, that it's handled fairly quickly. So one of the last things I want to talk about now before turning it over to Hira is thinking about what we have when we talk about the quality management system. You know, it's a preconfigured set of applications that deliver industry best practices and time to value, quick time to value for our quality management customers. The one real hallmark of ETQ systems is its configurability. Allows administrators and business users. It doesn't require the IT department to come in and do heavy programming for the system. We can have our business users and administrators do a lot of that configuration. So again, taking some of the load off of IT's plate as they start to use this application more and more. Administrator settings are all over the place, and user settings. It just allows a much easier management of the environment, so you can focus on what's most important to your organization across all of the systems that you manage, and not have to be as concerned about the quality management system keeping up to date without a lot of attention. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Hira, and I'm happy to introduce now again Hira Sharma, our Chief Architect.
Thank you so much, David. That was a really good introduction about QMS and our product. Very excited to be here to talk about our advanced technology that's changed the game. I have a packed content, so I'll be moving and talking a little fast. So David talked about what a QMS is and what our product offerings are. I want to level set cloud concept, especially after looking at the poll. I think we can still have some common baseline understanding. As we are all aware, there has been a significant impact of cloud on our daily life in the industry we belong to and the end users of our product. And cloud has changed the way we look at IT procurement. Instead of bare metal hardware, we look at infrastructure or platform as a service or software as a service or a SaaS product. And cloud computing, just as a quick definition, is a style of computing in which scalable and elastic capabilities are delivered as a service using internet technologies. Gartner defines the cloud infrastructure and platform services market as standardized, highly automated offering in which infrastructure resources such as compute, networking, and storage are complemented by integrated platform services. These include managed applications like databases, functions as a service offering. The resources are scalable and elastic in near real time and are metered by use. And there are a number of these cloud providers. AWS from Amazon, GCP from Google, Azure from Microsoft, just to name a few. And all these vendors have different completeness of vision and services. They have strength in some areas, and they are still evolving in others. But all vendors support elasticity and provide unlimited scalability of machines, storage, and managed services. And with this rise in cloud-based services, there are many businesses that are leveraging cloud to build products. And there are many delivery models for cloud. We touch base as part of the question, as we have infrastructure as a service if you are really interested in the bare metal. Or we have platform as a service if you're using compute, but you also want to have the operating system pre-installed. Or you're looking as a software as a service if you want to use a cloud-based product like ETQ QMS, which is built using cloud services from cloud vendors. The benefit of cloud industries are obvious. I think we all know that there is no need for IT to spend on compute or storage purchases and maintenance. And the cloud providers, they scale to an unlimited scales. And there is a significant innovation happening in the cloud. So the cloud-based application can take full advantage of these rapid scale and unlimited availability, along with the building blocks, and which allows the applications to be cloud native. Also, we take advantage of the solved problems and focus on the core strength of the company. You will see in subsequent slides, that's exactly what we do with our cloud native offering in the Reliance NXG. Moving along to the next slide. I mean, cloud is becoming now more mainstream, and we at ETQ has chosen to use AWS as our cloud provider. When choosing a vendor, we went through our due diligence, and as part of due diligence, we considered many aspects of cloud providers, like ability to execute and completeness of vision. And after considering all these factors, we chose AWS, and we have deployed on AWS for over a decade now. In that time, we have seen AWS evolve and innovate. And as you can see from the Gartner Magic Quadrant for Cloud Infrastructure and Platform Services published in mid-2021, AWS is the leader. It's in the leader quadrant in cloud providers. And AWS, just a little bit of a background on AWS. AWS has global footprint in over 25 geographical regions with 81 availability zones. And these availability zones and regions, they are interconnected, and they provide us with a low latency, high quality global network for us to use. And AWS provides us with infinite scalability, and it also provides us with over 200 AWS services that act as a building block. But that's not all. There are many hundreds of third-party services that are built on top of AWS. So we have a lot of choice on how we want to run our workload. And with all that different regions available, we can run our workload closer to our customers. That makes the compliance and data residency easier to achieve. And there has been a constant innovation in field of data analytics, machine learning, and many more. With AWS, Reliance NXG offers unlimited scalability to our product architecture, which I'm going to cover in the next slide. So with the introduction of cloud computing and AWS, I would like to discuss ETQ's cloud native and future-proof quality management system, Reliance NXG. Reliance NXG is the next generation cloud native version of the battle-hardened ETQ Reliance. Reliance NXG brings cloud native technologies to the core of our product architecture. The main goal of the latest development is to make Reliance even more powerful and easy for organizations to use and maintain. Reliance NXG is architected to use modular cloud native services. And this cloud-native service approach enables you as a customer to focus your innovation efforts and resources at the end user and QMS configuration, while ETQ ensures the infrastructure and backend are perpetually up to date for truly future-proof QMS. Reliance NXG is offered as a software as a service model, which delivers potential benefits such as cost saving and increased agility and scalability, which are made possible through harnessing modern cloud technologies in AWS. And some of the technologies are shown on the slide that we have integrated into Reliance NXG. We've used Elastic Cache. We use computing services like Lambda, Fargate, Amazon Elastic Compute. And this is a very short list of services we use. We use many more. The AWS services act as a building block to Reliance NXG product architecture. But we're not limited to just using these services provided by AWS. We can also use hundreds of third-party services that have been built on top of AWS services. One such service is Datadog. Datadog provides performance and usage monitoring in real time and helps in faster root cause analysis with reduced MTTR. Like Datadog, there are many other services to choose from, and they all solve all the complex problems. The Reliance NXG architecture has been designed to allow these various AWS services and third-party technologies to be leveraged in a plug-and-play fashion. We have intentionally chosen to have a very decoupled architecture, and we are using enterprise design patterns like message and event-driven architecture. So as AWS or third-party services are enhanced or new and more advanced services become available, we can easily update our architecture with the latest capability. Ultimately, this means that our QMS customers will always be able to take advantage of innovation from these technology leaders. The result is that neither ETQ nor its customers spend time on previously solved technology problem and can keep their quality and safety management systems perpetually at the cutting edge. And that means more time and resources can be devoted to innovation and not on the infrastructure. Now, one last point is that this plug-and-play capability is a big differentiator for our product. Reliance NXG architecture is not just a prescriptive set of technologies. We have access to underlying building blocks via the AWS services and hundreds of third-party service providers. The flexibility allows us to continue to focus on Reliance NXG features as hyperscalers like AWS continue to push the boundaries. Continuing on to the next slide. So this current slide shows our product architecture. Again, this is a very high-level view, and Reliance NXG is a modern cloud-native layered service-oriented architecture. It is architected for high availability with no single point of failure to deliver an always-on experience. I'll touch on individual layers, briefly describe the purpose of each layer, and touch on the benefits due to the technology we chose to use. The end user interacts with the presentation layer, which is built on using modern technologies. Our web application is built using a very lightweight cross-platform framework and is deployed using AWS CDN technology that provides unlimited scalability and a low latency edge network for faster access to our web application. And through the global accelerated networking service, we can send end user traffic through AWS's global networks infrastructure, which can improve end user performance by up to 60%. So companies with a global user base can get equally good performance across the globe. We also offer mobile application for both iOS and Android. Continuing down to our access control layer, Reliance NXG supports multiple authentication schemes, including single sign-on, and it can integrate with identity providers like Okta, Active Directory, and any other IDP that supports SAML 2.0. We also expose public REST API that uses the OAuth 2, which is the latest security standard for API authentication. And authorization is built into our platform and using role-based access control. And there are other ways to further enhance the further enhance the authorization using location and departments and other attributes. Continuing down to our platform layer, the platform layer is a foundational layer for NXG, and it has features used by all the other layers. There are several features from platform layer like workflow management, rules engine, ETQ script, which is a Python-based low-coding scripting language. And we use a number of computing service from AWS in this layer to provide unlimited scalability to the Reliance NXG platform. Below the platform layer is the data layer. And the data layer is where the Reliance NXG transactional database is. And we use a database service from AWS that expand with the increased load. And we use Elasticsearch to store attachments, which, again, provides high performance, redundancy, and they scale automatically. On the right section is our business services layer. And these business services allow for various business functions to be performed in a reusable and consistent manner. And as an example, for the business layer is that we use AWS service for full text search, and which is scalable and highly available. And at the bottom right section is our integration layer, which I'm going to cover in a little bit more in the next slide. But at a high level, Reliance NXG offers a bidirectional integration, which means external systems like ERP, Salesforce can integrate with Reliance NXG, and Reliance NXG can integrate with these external systems. And integration to Reliance NXG is done via a published set of a public REST API, which I talked about earlier, that can be securely consumed by these external systems. And also, the reverse is also true. Reliance NXG can be configured to consume these web services from external systems like SAP, ERP, Salesforce, and other systems. The one important integration I'd like to mention is the integration with FDA for submitting the medical device reporting electronically. This FDA integration is built using message-driven architecture. I talked about decoupled architecture, so this is an example of it. Message-driven architecture, and it uses a number of AWS messaging technologies to provide an asynchronous architecture. Again, on the left side is our infrastructure services, and these services are non-functional services that are used by all layers. We have a tenant management system, which is a centralized place for managing customer environments and infrastructure associated with them. I'm going to talk more in detail about security in subsequent slides. And scalability and highability are other important attributes of cloud-native Reliance NXG architecture. Scalability could mean many different things. It could be dealing with growing number of users. It could be increasing data, processing more integration, or interested in geographic expansion. These are all enabled by our decoupled architecture, and also by tapping into the scalability of compute and storage. One such example is for attachments. ETQ uses distributed file system from AWS, which has no technical limit to the number or size of uploaded files. The distributed file system is also elastic and scales automatically. So a customer will never run out of storage. The system remains fully operational while the storage scaling is happening. And this system is not a closed box for us. Performance and usage monitoring deliver real-time visibility of the system, and ETQ continuously monitor the application using Datadog. And as I mentioned previously, Datadog provides us with the centralized place for logging and monitoring, and helps reduce the mean time to resolution and faster root cause analysis. We're also proactively looking at anomalies and provide alerts to our cloud operations to take appropriate action sooner. We also perform proactive health checks, including synthetic transactions that provide feedback and visibility on the health of the application and infrastructure on an ongoing basis. I know there was a lot to cover on this slide. So just to summarize, Reliance NXG is a cloud-native, highly available service-oriented architecture that takes advantage of solved problems and uses many AWS services as well as technologies from leading technology providers such as Datadog and others. And Reliance NXG architecture is decoupled to allow these various AWS services and third-party technologies to be leveraged in a plug-and-play fashion. We use industry standard and pro enterprise architecture design patterns like event-driven and message-driven architecture. Reliance NXG is designed to resolve issues with traditional on-prem and most SaaS QMS systems by moving to a cloud-native architecture, provide modernized integrations, and optimize for scalability and powerful feature. And our customers are geographically distributed, and we stand Reliance NXG up in the AWS region closer to customer user base. And this region selection keeps the customer data within the geographic region due to the data residency and other compliance-related concerns. So just moving on to the next slide. So in this slide, I'm going to talk a little bit more about integration. So the ease of integration solves many problems. In an enterprise software environment, the systems are siloed and disconnected, and the information travels too slowly. And that results in failure to adopt any new software, including QMS. But these silos are often the result of a tightly efficient departments, which can be an essential marker in assessing the strength of a company. And when it is difficult to connect these silos together, the breakdown occurs. What we have seen is that the QMS systems are often at the center of the enterprise systems. So seamless integration with other enterprise business system is critical. As you can imagine, there are several business advantages of interconnected system. It results in reduction of time and cost of dual entry by looking up parts, products, supplier, and customer information directly from your production system. It prevents poor data quality by aligning with existing data in the external system, such as product, supplier, customer. It shortens your inventory cycle by automatically releasing products put on hold in your production system when the appropriate investigation and release phases have been completed in QMS. And it also minimizes risk in product release by automatically preventing product releases if an issue is found. So the automated and connected processes between system creates a single holistic solution and an end-to-end integrated flow. So, the ease of integration and integration offered by Reliance NXG is important. So I talked a little bit about the architecture and how it is decoupled, and our integration layer is bidirectional. I want to take a deeper dive into our integration offering. As you're thinking about a cloud-based QMS, you have many external systems like SAP, ERP, Salesforce, MES, master data, like supplier data, that are still distributed in other systems. So with Reliance NXG, you can configure integrations with these external systems and import data into Reliance NXG. These external systems could be a database or a flat file or an XML file. Or most of these external systems also offer web services. So Reliance NXG can be configured to consume these web services from these external systems to bring the data into Reliance NXG. And these integrations are bidirectional. Like I mentioned earlier, Reliance also exposes a set of public REST API, and these external systems can call these web services to read, create, or modify records in Reliance NXG. And based on your needs, these integrations allow you to have a real-time communication between systems. And data synchronization can be run on a scheduled basis or associated with an action button. Moving on to the next slide, we'll talk about our cloud-based data strategy. So quality and safety professionals are looking for a new way to transform data into actions and knowledge. And they're looking for an easy way to have visibility and have analytics to proactively spot important trends to reduce risks and costs. With insights that David talked about earlier, we provide you with tools that allow you to easily understand the data through reports and take faster and better decisions. And so on the picture on the top is Reliance NXG, is the quality and safety management platform and applications. In the middle is Insights, which is Reliance NXG core application that provides advanced analytic capabilities. Insights copies the data and designs from Reliance NXG using an intelligent ETL process that automatically adjusts to the configuration changes made in the application. Bottom left is the data warehouse, which has a denormalized structure and optimized for advanced analytics. The cloud-based data warehouse provides centralized, secure, highly performant, and highly connected environments from which we deliver our analytics functionality. Moving to the bottom right, Insight comes with built-in dashboards that meet the most common reporting needs of quality and safety professionals. And customer can also connect directly to data warehouse to pull data into their warehouse, combining quality management data from Reliance with data from other systems, or customers can plug in a variety of business intelligence and visualization tools. We continue to evolve and innovate in our cloud-based data strategy with best-of-the-breed cloud-based data platforms like Snowflake. Moving on to the next slide. Talking about security, and security is always at the top of everyone's concern. So I want to give you an overview of Reliance NXG security. And David also touched base a little bit in the beginning of the presentation. How security is very important, especially because of the recent events. And security for us is a job zero. ETQ works round the clock to protect the data, maintain the integrity of the data, and ensure the confidentiality of the data. And we make sure our data at rest is protected using the most secure and industry best practices for encryption. All data at rest is encrypted, and that includes database, data storage, attachment storage, and all backup storage. And data in motion, which refers to data in transit between 2 points, is secured using TLS 1.2. I talked about authentication and authorization earlier. We also have a DDoS protection and vulnerability management program. We are making sure that we have a risk-based vulnerability management program, and we use principle of defense in depth and least privilege access. And we use multiple layers of protection against DDoS attack and other attacks using security layers like firewall, or protection against application layer attacks. And ETQ invests a lot of time in people, process, and technology to ensure we have protection for data security, which is evident. As you can see, we are an ISO 27001 and ISO 9001. We also have Privacy Shield for managing the PII information. David touched base a little bit on the zero-day vulnerability. There was a zero-day exploit discovered for Log4j library. And as you might know, Log4j is one of the most widely used logging library in Java. ETQ team created an accelerated patch, tested it, applied the patch over the weekend to address the vulnerability. We are on it. And the last one, data residency requirement, is something that I spoke about the requirement earlier and how we address them. With that, I hand it over to David.
Thanks, Hira. That gives a quick but very extensive overview of what you'd expect in a QMS from a technology perspective, from a security perspective, and in the ability to optimize your own quality management requirements as you implement this and as you roll out quality throughout your organization. And this summary, I'm not going to read through it. I mean, Hira did a great job going through all the details here, but I think I'll just call out a couple of points. One is that we really looked at how do we future-proof this for our customers, that as we look at future requirements, we're already in a position to be able to take advantage of those. And it is cloud native for support, for scalability, for performance, for efficiency, for helping as a partner with our customers to take advantage of quality management. And so, Stan, with that, I think we're ready for our next poll question.
Well, indeed we are, David. Thanks very much. Let's move to the next question. And the question is, what cloud services providers are you using? And you have multiple choices here: AWS, Amazon Web Services, GCP, Google Cloud Platform, or Microsoft Azure, or other. So please make your selection among those choices. Hit the submit button, and we'll look at the results momentarily. David and Hira, certainly these are the major cloud platforms. I would certainly expect them to be well represented among our audience. Any thoughts as to which might be the most prevalent, though?
I can go first. I mean, I think out of the three choices, I feel that AWS has been there the longest. And so I do expect that there will be more presence on AWS than the other ones. And AWS also has much breadth of the services provided and the third-party services available. David, over to you. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I would agree. But I also think that Azure might surprise us again. So we'll see.
All right. Okay. I think members of our audience are just about finished making their selections. So, yeah, let's go ahead and look at those results. Well, David, as you're predicting, Azure is represented there. AWS certainly in first place, though. And in this case, we don't have anyone using the Google Cloud Platform. Any thoughts, David?
Yeah, I mean, I think, David, you're absolutely right. It looks like AWS is leading, but Azure is definitely catching up. It's a pretty good trend to see. Thank you.
Yeah, it's just what I've seen in the marketplace lately. That Microsoft has done a really good job of positioning Azure against the other platforms.
Well, before we continue on, I just want to remind members of our audience to please send us your questions. Just type it into the Q&A box on your screen, press submit, and we'll do our best to answer it during the Q&A segment, which is coming right up. If we can't get to it, you will receive an email reply within just a few days. So with that, back to you, David.
All right, thank you, Stan. So one of the things that just before we get into the Q&A, just a couple of discussion points that Hira and I wanted to touch on. And I think, Hira, the first one, and obviously from some of the poll results, we see that there's a lot of organizations that really haven't yet moved into the cloud, which means that they're running a lot of on-premise applications. And I wouldn't be surprised to see quality management as one of those on-premise applications. Well, how do customers think about moving into the cloud? With they're already on-premise, should they think about, now that I'm looking at the cloud and we've heard what we have to say here, what's that look like to you?
Yeah, no, I think very important thing to discuss, David. I think especially with the recent events in the last year and a half, we have seen an uptick in the activities for folks that were on-prem. They are moving to cloud, and what we have done is we have a very well-defined process that steps through all the actions and activities to get a customer from their current on-prem QMS to our SaaS solution. And it's a well-defined process. So it starts with understanding the scope of which application the customer would want to use, document control, training, management, and many others to choose from that we will need to configure. And based on that, we propose a strategy that best fits to the customer situation. We define the delivery milestone, identify risk, and how we can help mitigate them. And we set up ETQ templates for standard operating procedures. The customer identifies the data source, and what we do is we then go through a data migration, which involves data and attachment extraction from their identified sources, followed by data transformation to ensure data can be loaded into Reliance NXG. And then data transformation includes like field mapping and other transformation needed for the data. And after we load the data into an NXG, we import the attachment. We start configuring the integrations as well to the external systems like ERP and Salesforce. We do this first in the non-prod environment, execute the test cases, and then have the customer verify the migrated data and the application configuration. And then we do the similar steps in prod. We also make sure that as the production system goes live, we're providing the hypercare and support to address any issues. We also provide end-user training, which is an integral part of this process. And as you can imagine, that the process is very similar for validated customers, but we do also provide some specialized services for our validated life sciences customers, which could include a continuous release of the software update program, also a validated solution and documentation, so that we do a lot of that heavy lifting in the risk management.
That's great. Okay, and then one other thing I just wanted to get out on the table is, you talked a little bit about integration, and enterprise systems have grown up, and a lot of them are just silos, right? They're not very well connected to each other. Can you talk a little bit more about the use cases in terms of integrating, for example, an ERP or a CRM or these types of systems with QMS?
Yeah, David, I think you can never talk enough about integration. I think this is something that we see every single day, and we have seen it all. I think, with our background, we have seen all sorts of integration. And I'll just put a scenario. So let's think about a scenario where the Salesforce is intaking the customer complaint. And after the complaint is registered, if there are issues that are evaluated and they require a full-blown corrective action, Salesforce can then invoke our Reliance NXG REST services. I talked about that we have public REST services that we expose. So Salesforce can actually call those web services and assign corrective actions in NXG. And these quality-related items are then synchronized to the Reliance NXG. And the quality group can then investigate and then determine the details of the reported issue and take appropriate actions. And if there is a need, the updates that are done in Reliance and actually in the QMS, they can be synchronized back to Salesforce for timely communication to the customer. And these all is possible by Reliance NXG making a call to a Salesforce web service to update Salesforce. So we can support these multiple different use cases. And similarly, for if you're looking for an ERP case, which is a typical scenario, is that you would start your workflow for, let's say, an NCMR in NXG, in Reliance NXG, and handle the disposition there. And then Reliance can send an NCMR product details to ERP or MES for inventory hold while the disposition is taking place. Again, in this type of a use case or in this type of a scenario, Reliance is configured to call a web services exposed by the ERP system. And there are several benefits, as you can imagine. The first, one is that the QMS data is aligned with the ERP and Salesforce. So, you're not working on the problems of source of truth. Who is the source of truth? There is the defined source of truth. And then also the ERP software is automatically updated and when the materials are put on hold or released. And QMS users, they don't have to copy and paste and work on an offline data. And a lot of times the QMS users are very familiar with Reliance NXG, but they may not be familiar with the ERP system. And they don't have to be with this type of an integration.
Right, and just so everybody understands, you use the acronym NCM. That's a non-conformance materials, which is a thing that quality professionals really get excited about because it means something went wrong. And so rather than having to do a lot of manual actions, what we're seeing is more and more now automated actions based upon something going wrong. So with that, Stan, what I want to do is turn it over to you to get into some questions. I think we have a few in the question box there.
Well, indeed we do, David. Let's get to those right away. The first question has to do with reducing risk. And one of the top priorities of the C-suite is to reduce risk, of course. How does this cloud-native QMS do this?
Sure, I can take that, David. So there are many things that worry a C-suite, and maybe I'll just go through a few of them. And as you know, QMS systems are often the center of the enterprise system, as actually explained in my integration slide, and they are critical to the organization. Reliance NXG is the next generation cloud-native version, but it is based on a battle-hardened Reliance. We have not acquired a new product, or we have not rewritten the product from scratch. Instead, what we have done is we have taken an existing code base and converted into a true cloud-native product. So Reliance NXG is based on a proven cloud base. And also, AWS is not new for us. We have been leveraging AWS Cloud for over a decade. And we have many hundreds of customers currently running in AWS. And you combine the two, and Reliance NXG is a cloud native and based on a battle-hardened QMS. And using a proven product on the latest technology significantly reduces the risk for C-suite. And I'd like to also mention one additional risk, which is around technology changes. So technology, as we know, it changes at a very rapid rate. And C-suites yearly spends a significant portion of their budget on technology refreshes. These major updates are painful and they are risky, and they can result in failure or not a subpar experience. With cloud-native QMS, we are incrementally providing regular updates to our products and technologies. So as AWS or these third parties are enhancing or new or advanced services are becoming available, Reliance NXG stays perpetually on the cutting edge of technology. And it does not require investment from the C-suites on the technology refreshes. In fact, C-suite is future-proofing their investments with Reliance NXG.
All right, let's move on to the next question. What areas is IT responsible for in the Reliance Cloud offering?
Yeah, David, I can start with it and probably have you chime in as well. Very quickly, as you can see, we talk about shared responsibility model. And as you can see from this webinar, Reliance NXG Architecture has been developed on AWS services, and we take advantage of many AWS services. And in this shared responsibility model, AWS is responsible for the security of the cloud, which is the underlying cloud infrastructure. And it could be, it's related to the AWS is responsible for providing compute, storage, virtualization, networking. They're not responsible necessarily, let's say, for operating system, depending on the service we use. And ETQ is responsible for securing workload deployed in the cloud. Now, regardless of what AWS service we use, from an ETQ's customer perspective, ETQ is fully responsible for operating system, patches, network, firewall configuration, and we make sure that data integrity and data encryption at rest and motion and isolation, that all are our responsibility. And also our responsibility is all the patches and releases to the Reliance NXG application and global configuration of the application. David, anything you want to talk about?
Yep. And then the customer, the IT department or even the system administrator would be responsible for making sure that the users are set up appropriately, that you've got the roles and responsibilities and access rights set up, that the application is configured appropriately, and that the data is put into the application where you expect it. So I think broadly, it crosses this whole responsibility model is a shared approach to managing the security for the system.
All right, we have time for one more question, and the question is, how do you handle security in a multi-tenant environment?
David, I can take that. When we're looking at a multi-tenant environment, there are many aspects of security I've talked about today. Talked about infrastructure security, application security. I talked about our DDoS protection vulnerability management program. I think this question, is related to more around data isolation for our multi-tenant environment. I think there are many models of multi-tenancy, and the model that we have chosen is to share the compute and storage, but while maintaining a strict data isolation. And the way we maintain data isolation is giving a unique customer ID and making sure all the data is striped with that customer unique ID. And on top of it, we have deep test kit coverage to test the entire data isolation. So our multi-tenant offering is secure from infrastructure, application, and data isolation perspective.
Thanks, Hira, and thanks, David. That's great information. Well, that is all the time we have in this live interactive webcast. Sincere thanks to our two experts, David Isaacson, Senior Director of Product Marketing at ETQ, and Hira Sharma, Chief Architect at ETQ. Thanks to both for explaining how to increase quality, streamline integration, and reduce risk. For more information on this topic, please see the resources area of your webcast player, where you will find links and documents of interest. And thanks for joining us for ETQ and IDG. I'm Stan Gibson.